You're watching ChillyBoy Productions. I'm Larry ChillyBoy Chilson, and this is my ranking for every animated film I saw in 2023. Now, before we get into this ranking, make sure to go ahead and click that subscribe button down below so that you can chill with me on each and every one of my latest videos. So we're here. We are back. We've made it another year, which means we have end of the year lists coming. So here on the channel, I try to cover as much animation as I can, and that includes my annual ranking for all of the animated films I've watched throughout the year. So I'm sad to say a couple of the films I really wanted to see before doing this ranking just kind of slipped through the cracks. I wasn't able to really access them or see them in a comfortable way. So, unfortunately, Robot Dreams, which I've heard nothing but great things about, and the first Slam Dunk just won't be included here. There were also a couple of other small films that I know got small theatrical releases. I just wasn't able to see them while they were in theaters, so the time kind of flew by. But that did leave me with 20 animated films for this year's ranking, which is actually more than the past couple of years. So I'm not too mad at the number of movies I watched this year. And this includes films from all across the gambit, the big studios down to really small foreign indies. 2D animation, rotoscope style animation, typical 3D animation, some films that blend it all together. I actually think that 2023 was a really solid for animation to give us a great wide variety to showcase what the medium can do. Now, as always, this is just my personal ranking, my own personal list on how I enjoyed these animated offerings. Your list will likely look quite different. And that's the beauty of film. Everyone receives and perceives animation, film, art in general differently, and that's what makes talking about it so much fun. So I cannot wait to see your ranking in the comment section down below as well. But now back to my list. As I said, we have 20 films to get through, so let's go ahead and jump off with number 20, aka Dead Last. So I'm actually really sad to say that my least favorite animated film of the year was The Monkey King. This Netflix original just didn't really do much of anything for me personally. I found our main characters to not only be rather shallow, they didn't have much depth to them or how they were written, how they were characterized, but they also weren't that likable. So at least if they were these lovable characters, but were pretty shallow, I could get on board with that. But when they're not likable and they have no depth to them, it's tough. Plus, the messaging gets really jumbled. The animation varies greatly from kind of rudimentary to stunning in some of those action set pieces. Overall, I just kind of found The Monkey King to be a bit of an irritating film to get through. Coming in at number 19 is a film I know many people love. Many people love this franchise, that's for sure. Unfortunately, I'm just not one of them. I have Trolls Band Together at number 19. This just did not do it for me, really, on any level. Yes, it's bright and colorful, it's energetic, but that's kind of where my positives ended. Really, I think the character designs are so hideous in this movie. I'm sorry, but I don't know why the Trolls franchise continues to just make ugly characters. Outside of the little baby trolls, they're all just like, ugh. And then we get these new characters, most of which are also really annoying, much like our two lead characters. Poppy is just insufferable as always. Ugh. The music is fine, I guess, but they really touted this NSYNC reunion. It was like NSYNC, boy band, blah, 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 blah. And wow, was that a letdown? Probably the biggest disappointment in film in 2023 between the marketing versus what we were actually given. The Trolls films just kind of continue to be loud, in your face, and obnoxious, and that's just not my gig. I'm sorry. And honestly, I think this third one is probably my least favorite one yet. At number 18, I have The Amazing Maurice, which actually had its premiere at Sundance, which is quite the interesting choice. Now, I almost watched it then, but decided to pass it by and then caught it later when it came to Hulu. This has some fun elements to it. Sometimes the fourth wall breaking is okay. The actual message is also nice. And every now and then the jokes land. But by and large, I think the film actually doesn't balance its like sarcastic meta tone well enough with the sweetness of this fable. So it really just kind of feels awkward and unwarranted most of the time. The characters aren't unlikable, but they're also not particularly likable or endearing. The animation is mostly kind of subpar, certainly nothing to write home about. The script itself and the story itself go off the deep end a little bit. To leave you with a film that had potential to be something really fun, like a kid's Deadpool, but why are we making this amazing Maurice fable into a kid Deadpool? I don't know. The blend just wasn't really blending for me. At number 17, I have another Netflix original animated film, Leo. Now, I know this is going to be a really hot take to have Leo all the way down here at number 17, because I know a lot of people really enjoyed this film. I just was definitely not one of them. I think that everything with the kids and Leo and him giving them these nice, sweet life lessons was good. It worked well. That's it. Everything else in this film, I just didn't really enjoy. The animation is subpar for me, including the character designs I wasn't really on board with. The humor pretty much missed almost every single time. I just didn't find it funny, and they have a lot of gags and jokes in here. They didn't work. And speaking of not working, the songs. Oh my gosh. I did not know we were going to be doing a musical going into this film, and the music wasn't good, so it didn't work at all. A nice life lesson in the core of this is what put Leo above the previous films on this list, but outside of that, I just could not get on board with this one. I'm sorry, y'all. Flying in at 16, I have Paw Patrol, the Mighty Movie. And I think this is fine. It's perfectly serviceable. I'm sure Paw Patrol fans had a great time with this film. I'm just not particularly a Paw Patrol fan. Many would say it's propaganda for children, but the Paw Patrol series obviously is not aimed at me. It's not animation series for me. It's for very small children. I think this film fits a good little superhero film with puppies for small children. The lesson about being a smallest hero is okay, though I do think that that little puppy was a hot mess. I'm not gonna lie. I think we need to teach the children about repercussions for your actions a little bit, because she did a lot of foolishness in this movie. I do think it definitely relies on you having some knowledge, not only from the previous film, but from the TV show as well. Like, there's a lot of nods there. And the biggest disappointment is that this is a theatrical release that feels just very slightly above, like, the actual TV show animation, especially for a superhero version of these Paw Patrol heroes. I don't know. I would have thought they would have stepped the animation game up even more, because this is a very lucrative series. Swimming in at 15, I have DreamWorks' Ruby Gillman, the Teenage Kraken. Yeah, it was a rough year for DreamWorks and me, I have to say. I just didn't really connect to this story, to be honest. And it's a story we've seen done quite a bit recently, a lot of mother-daughter friction stories. And this one, I just don't know that it was completely successful, to be honest. Add in the grandma, who is voiced wonderfully by Jane Fonda. Really, all of the vocal work here is actually very good. But the world building seemed to lack. The Kraken designs were really off-putting. I cannot tell you how much I did not like the design of the Krakens. They looked gangly and off-putting. I just didn't like it, especially when they got big and stuff. Oof. No, I hated the Kraken design. But on top of that, you add in this self-discovery story with Ruby herself that plays very by the book and safe. It takes a huge backseat in general to the bonding story of the family. The twist villain doesn't work, not only because, well, they spoiled it in the marketing, but it just was a little bit tired to begin with. Though I did like that they made her look like Ariel. Taking a shot at Disney, are we, DreamWorks? The love story felt very shoehorned in and unneeded. Ruby is a perfectly lovely character herself. I think her mom is a well-realized character as well. And if it was just those two and we really honed in on that, I think it could have worked a lot better. But as it was, everything about Ruby Gilman just kind of came in flatlined for me. So at number 14 is a movie I know a lot of people loved because, well, it's the biggest grossing animated film of 2023. So everybody and their mama went to go watch it. But we have the Super Mario Bros. Movie from Illumination. Obviously, it's fun to see the Easter eggs and to get all of these characters on screen in a pretty cohesive narrative. The animation was very nice. I actually thought it looked great from Illumination. The music was a lot of fun, and Jack Black as Bowser, particularly, chef's kiss, amazing. Peaches was a bop, probably the funniest thing in this entire film. Other than Jack Black, the rest of the voice cast didn't really work for me. The plot was really mundane. The screenplay at large actually was quite mundane. Outside of anything Jack Black himself did, well, the jokes also didn't really work for me, except for that little star in the jail cell who was actually the MVP of the whole film. He stole the entire show with his depressed little self. I loved him. And he and Jack Black alone raised this film above everything beneath it. Overall, I found Super Mario Bros. To be fine. I didn't love it by any means. It really did just feel like a vehicle for references without anything else to add, but it was fun enough, I guess. So at number 13, I have Pixar's entry for the year with Elemental. Y'all, this one just did not click for me. I know some people really love this film and are championing it. It's obviously going to take a spot in the best animated feature lineup, which I've come to terms with. But it overall was just kind of a miss. I really enjoyed Ember as a character, and I liked what they tried to do with the immigration story. Really, her family's backstory and coming to the city worked really well. Their immigration story in a vacuum is great in this film. Obviously, the animation is absolutely stunning here. The original score was wonderful, and there are fun moments. There are beautiful, lovely sequences throughout. But really, I didn't vibe with Wade as a character. I just didn't really like his character that much, so I wasn't invested in his entire half of the story, and I wasn't really invested in their love story because of it either. And then when it comes to the world building, there's potential here to have like our next Zootopia, if you will. But it all ties into the greater metaphor of blending a city. It just doesn't make sense. It's trying so hard to fit an allegory and a metaphor onto elements that we have science for, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. It just cannot be. And I think that when you try to force a metaphor onto something that cannot work for that metaphor, it cheapens the actual message you're trying to send. And that's ultimately what happened with Elemental for me. As you're trying to have fire people blending with water people and blending with grass people, it's like, what? It's not about building cities that are accessible to everyone and that break down barriers for immigrants and people who come from other cultures, from different races, for accessibility purposes, when literally environments for elements can be just purely unsustainable. So it fell apart for me. I couldn't vibe with the metaphor as beautiful as it wanted to be because it just made no sense. And on top of that, I didn't care about the romance. The romance didn't work for me. The rom-com aspect, it wasn't there for me. So you can make your film as beautiful as you want to, but when that screenplay does not live up, well, you're down here at number 13, Pixar. So at number 12 is our other Disney entry here with Wish. Now, I know I have the merch back here, but that's mostly because I think Star is just an icon, a legend. Star is the moment, y'all. I loved Star in the film itself, and I couldn't pass up on this. I'm sorry. But I have to say it. I know it's probably not a popular opinion. I liked Wish more than I liked Elemental. I actually liked Wish more than a lot of other people did, by and large. I thought Asha was a lovely character, voiced beautifully by Ariana DeBose. Magnifico was super fun, also voiced magnificently by Chris Pine. The animation was amazing, and I commend Disney for really stepping outside of their comfort zone to give us something fresh and new with the animation style. And I loved the homages. It's literally a movie about the history of Disney at its core. It's about wishing upon a star. But I love the idea of the power of wishing and dreams, and when you let go of those or have them taken from you, quite literally, what it does to the human spirit. And I thought that was actually quite a lovely message. Now, the music was very hit or miss, particularly for a Disney musical. I don't know that many of these are going to be going in the Disney classic rotation. The story itself was not only derivative because it paid so much homage to other stories, but it was just kind of uninspired as well. Outside of our main protagonist, the rest of the characters don't get much development other than Valentino, who also was amazing. I actually was super scared about Valentino, this little goat, heading into the film. They used him to perfect effect. Honestly, it was Asha, Valentino, and Star that were the icons here. And truth be told, it was actually Valentino and Star stole the whole show. So at the end of the day, Wish just didn't give me anything to be overly excited about. It was fine. It was perfectly lovely, but that's kind of where the buck stopped with this one. At number 11, I have Merry Little Batman. Now, this was a Prime Video original, and this was fun. This was like just the perfect slice of holiday fun for comic book fans. I could have used a lot more Bruce Wayne himself in the film. And I don't know why these 2D animation movies oftentimes lean on the ugly animated show trope. Like, oh my gosh, why do all of the characters have to just be ugly? Not a single cute one amongst the bunch. But other than that, it is a fun Christmas romp, especially for smaller kids. Having Damien be our superhero protagonist is a lot of fun. The action is the perfect blend of just fun time as well as funny. The jokes are a lot of fun. I liked the Joker here, and Poison Ivy was fabulous. And the ultimate message was actually really nice and a message that works perfectly for the Batman story of just togetherness and being with family and the joy of family at the holidays. What Christmas really means and what being a superhero really means. There's not much to Merry Little Batman, but it served exactly what I needed from a holiday Batman movie. So we're halfway through. Kicking off the top 10, I have The Magician's Elephant. Another Netflix animated film, and one that I actually really enjoyed. Now, full caveat, the animation itself is a little bit rocky. It's not the smoothest animation. It's not the most polished all the time, particularly some of the movements from the characters. But I loved these characters. I thought that they were all so charming. Obviously, I'm a big elephant person, a big animal person by and large, but elephants specifically. So the story itself about this elephant, I adored. Our main protagonist and his connection to this elephant and their mission was really fun. I found the hijinks of it all to be a really good time. And the wonderful blend of realism with a sense of magic just worked really well. It's a cute story for a cute film that I found rather endearing. At number 9, I have the Polish film The Peasants. So this is an adult animated film that comes from the makers that gave us Loving Vincent, which I absolutely loved. So I was so excited to get to see this film. And I certainly didn't like it as much as I loved Loving Vincent because the painting style about a Vincent van Gogh movie was just so perfectly blended, but I still enjoyed The Peasants for what it was. The animation style is absolutely stunning once more. It's like this combination of rotoscope style animation with actual watercolor painting. It's really something special that they have going on. And it's adapting this kind of dark tale from Poland about this woman living in this town that kind of gets ostracized. And I found it a really effective script in telling that story. I think some of the jumps do take some sting away from the story itself. And I really wish we could have had more time to really connect to Jagna and particularly really get her bond with a couple of the male characters here. I think it would have really made that third act hit a lot harder. But as it is, it hits pretty hard because you kind of feel for this woman. Now, I do think it drags through the middle, bit much. Could have been shortened by probably 5 minutes or so at least. But that honestly could have been fixed with just reallocating time that feels more like dead space into developing those relationships, and it would have hit a lot harder. But as it is, The Peasant serves as a stunningly beautiful piece of moving art that tells a harrowing but also triumphant story, and a film I'm certainly glad I watched. So at number 8, I have Chicken Run Dawn of the Nugget. And I have to say, after watching this film, I was a little bit disappointed just because I hold the original Chicken Run in such high regard. And this sequel was good, but it just did not live up to that original Chicken Run. But just based solely on its own merits, I think Dawn of the Nugget is a really fun time. The story is actually quite similar to the first one, though we trade in like the resourcefulness of just your standard farm for like a chicken farm plant factory, which creates some new fun set pieces, but actually loses a lot of the ingenuity and charm of the original. Molly, as a character, is really headstrong and determined, and she's actually voiced beautifully by Bella Ramsey. But Bella Ramsey is the big highlight in the voice cast. We had a lot of swap outs for cast members from the original. For one reason or another, justified or not, we did have to replace both of our lead characters from the original. And unfortunately, as much as I love Thandie Newton, it just wasn't the same with her and Zachary Levi in those two main roles. However, the animation is absolutely stunning. Some of the best animation I have ever seen from Aardman Studios. The film is chock full of that Aardman charm that we've come to love and expect. The laughs are here. They don't come as often as I had hoped for, but they're there. All in all, there's not much more to say about Dawn of the Nugget. It's good, it's pleasant, it's a fun time. Soaring in to my number 7 slot, this is probably the biggest surprise for me on this list. Certainly the biggest surprise in a positive light. And that is Migration from Illumination Studios. Now, when I saw that first trailer, I was certain this was actually going to be terrible. After seeing the box office numbers, you can kind of understand why Illumination had no faith in Migration, but they really should have. They should have just let it stand on its own merit, cut better trailers, because I really don't think any of the trailers are very good for this film, and let the film sell itself, because this was really fun, really charming, a lovely animated movie, one of the best ever from Illumination Studios, easily, as you see in my ranking, the best offering they had in 2023 by far. So the thing with Migration is that it doesn't break the wheel by any means. It doesn't reinvent the animated family film, but it just executes it all quite well. I loved our core family. I thought Kumail Nanjiani and Elizabeth Banks gave great vocal performances in this film. Even Aquafina, who oftentimes recently has been quite grating, see The Little Mermaid. She's funny and fun and fits the character really well here. The jokes mostly land because we don't rely on this really kind of bottom of the barrel, slapsticky yuck humor that Illumination is so wont to rely on. The screenplay is straightforward but charming and full of heart. And then John Powell comes in with this absolutely fantastic original score that just elevates everything. I think the chef villain is the biggest problem here. If we had just left him at the scene where we first meet him, and he's just one of the many little side quest stops along the way, he was fine. I was like, okay, this is fun. But he keeps coming back and follows us and turns out to be the main villain of the whole film. And I think the journey of getting to Jamaica should have been the obstacle being the villain, but so be it. Migration was just a lot better than I ever imagined it was going to be, than it really has any right to be, and just gave me a really charming, good time at the movie theater. At number six, I have The Missing, which was the official Oscar submission from the Philippines. Now, unfortunately, it didn't make the shortlist for international feature, but wow, what a lovely film from the Philippines. So The Missing utilizes both rotoscope style animation and blends it with traditional 2D style animation to create this really whimsical, weird, but ultimately extremely touching and moving story. Honestly, this was not at all what I expected heading into watching this film. It is much more fantastical than I ever thought it was going to be. It took me quite some time to really get acclimated into what the heck kind of story was I watching. But once you get on that ride, once you join the mothership and go along for the ultimate allegory of what you're watching, it really hits home. The film is about trauma, it's about abuse, and it's about how we internalize that and deal with that, and how connections and people can help you face that and process it all. But it's all done in such a wonderfully whimsical fashion. Carl Joseph Papa is the writer and director of this film, and it follows Eric, and I found Eric to just be this really lovely, complex character that we get to know throughout. The fabulous Dolly De Leon plays his mother, and I also loved her character because she is a character that easily could have gone two different ways, like overly sympathetic, like this beautiful mother, or like kind of a mother that you could villainize quite easily, actually. And they don't do that. They make her a really interesting, complex, layered person. Now, I do think Carlo is somewhat of a manic pixie dream boy, but he's just so lovely that you can't help but love him by the end. Honestly, I didn't know where we were going, but once we really bring it home to understand what this movie is about, whoo, the ending hit me like a rail train. The Missing is a beautiful film that I really hope finds its distribution here in the United States and other people have the opportunity to view it because it's really a special adult animated film. All right, so the top five, my five favorite animated films of the year, also happen to just be five of my favorite films, period, from 2023. Obviously, if it were up to me, these would be the five nominees for Best Animated Feature at the Academy Awards, and I do think four of them have a decent shot at getting in, though I am scared for two of those four. Now, one of them is probably done, but we'll get to that one momentarily. First up, I have one of the locks for Best Animated Feature, and that is Hayao Miyazaki's return for Studio Ghibli with The Boy and the Heron. So I got to experience this both subtitled and dubbed in movie theaters, and I actually think they are both equally as fabulous. The English voice cast is really good for this film, as is the original Japanese voice cast. Once again, Studio Ghibli delivers beautiful animation. And honestly, this is some of the most stunning animation Ghibli has given us to date. There are some sequences in this film that just like take your breath away. They are so gorgeous. But then there are some choices I didn't love, like the parakeets. I don't know. They never quite looked right to me. But it's a story about grief and about processing trauma and processing grief that really just landed home. It's told in this fantastical way that only Miyazaki and Studio Ghibli can tell a story like this. It's really one of their most depressing films, I'd say, to date. Of course, it's nothing like Grave of Fireflies, but it is a bit of a somber film by and large, really delving into this young boy's guilt and his anger, his sadness, and exploring that through the beautiful form of animation in a fantastical world. I thought the metaphors that hit home within this tower world were also stunning. The Wara Wara, oh, not only are so adorable, but what they represented, I thought was just beautiful all around. The idea of harmony within that world, I also found to be quite stunning. And then the ultimate reveals that come later in the film really just took my breath away. They were so well handled. And the stepmom character, actually, I had a couple of problems with. I think it's a weird character all around in relationship to the father. And then in her relationship and the way she interacts with Hiro as well, it was odd. I didn't love it, and I think it was a little bit of a misstep. But by and large, I really enjoy The Boy and the Heron. I loved its messaging. I loved the kind of profound nature of it all, and that original score. Oh, just stunning. So in fourth place, I have another anime that explores loss and dealing with that loss with Suzume. Makoto Shinkai does it again. He's 3 for 3 out of the films I've seen from him, and Suzume is yet another absolute banger from Shinkai. Suzume as our lead protagonist is such a wonderful character, so well written. Suta is also a really great character. Even though he's a chair for the most of the film, it leads to a lot of really fun gags, but also takes us down this really wonderfully emotionally resonant road with his path. And I love that they both have their own journeys to explore as we move throughout. Obviously, the animation is just stunning, out of this world, gorgeous, painted from the gods. The original music from the Radwimps, once again, amazing. The original score is so good, and that main song, that main Suzume song, I had it on my playlist. I've listened to it constantly throughout the past year. It's that fantastic. And much like The Boy and the Heron, I think the film does such a great job at blending these deeper themes of self-discovery in with these magical, fantastical elements that really make the emotional impact of the third act rock your world. It possibly could be a little bit hard to follow, but honestly, I just think this film was top tier. And unfortunately, it's Suzume that I think has very little shot at actually being nominated for Best Animated Feature, but they're just missing out because this is fantastic. So kicking off my top three, at number 3, I have Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. The animation style in this was so freaking cool. Much like another film still to come on this ranking, TMNT Mutant Mayhem pushed the limits of what we can do with the art styles within animation to tell these stories in new, exciting ways. And oh, did it pay off because this film is absolutely gorgeous. It is stunning to look at. The turtles are amazing. They're actual teenagers, and it was so refreshing to see them be teens, to see them be brothers. The bond between these turtles was probably the best bond in any TMNT film I've seen. They felt like an actual family, goofing off, having fun, being kids, and being brothers who had each other's back. I loved the turtles and their depiction here. The soundtrack, amazing. One of the best soundtracks of the year, and honestly, possibly the best utilized soundtrack of the year. When those needle drops hit in Mutant Mayhem, oh, it hits hard. Ice Cube is fantastic in this film, though he's not doing much actual voice acting. He's not giving us Robert Pattinson, that's for sure. It doesn't matter. We wanted Ice Cube in this role, and he delivers some of the most hilarious lines I heard in film all year long. Any film. This is actually one of the funniest movies for 2023 in my book. Not saying that it doesn't always land. Some of the jokes, maybe they do land a little bit on the juvenile side, but again, they're teens, they're kids, they're goofing off and having fun. And then sometimes they are a little bit pop culture reference heavy, but I most of the time found it to be a lot of fun. I thought the characterizations were a lot of fun. The action set pieces were amazing and beautifully shot. It just really gave me everything I could have wanted out of a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie. Okay, so this might sound blasphemous to some people, but I have to tell you, my top two on this list is a virtual tie. I adore both of these films so much. I have flip-flopped back and forth many a time on which film I was actually going to rank number one. I know it sounds crazy that there was even a question, but I just loved them. I loved them both so much. Ultimately, though, I had to settle it. I had to put a film at number two, and I decided my second favorite animated film of 2023 is Nimona. This just did everything right for me. This checked all the buttons I could have ever asked for. I didn't really know much about this film other than it was the Blue Sky film that was almost fully completed, but got dumped in the trash once Disney acquired them. And there was this big online grassroots movement to get this made. Netflix acquired it and released it. And I'm so thankful they did because Nimona is absolutely wonderful. I love everything about this film. The animation style is amazing. I loved the way that this was animated. It was energetic, kinetic, full of life. Nimona as a character is a lot of fun. She's this rambunctious rebel who causes destruction in the most relatable ways possible. But further than that, her powers being used as this stunning metaphor for living as you are and who you are, this beautiful trans allegory that is woven throughout the story is handled so well and organically through Nimona and her power set and just who she is as she tries to navigate a world that doesn't accept her for being a shapeshifter. Ballister is one of my favorite characters in film for 2023. I loved everything about his story. Obviously, it was amazing seeing a person of color queer knight being the one to work his way up in that fashion. I loved it. I thought Riz Ahmed gave an amazing performance. Obviously, I loved that two of our knights were in a relationship with each other. But I thought Ballister was a great character as well, as he worked through his own prejudices and had to really decommission himself to what he had been programmed to believe, and how the system failed him to the same level it did Nimona herself. And the same goes with Golden Loin, his boyfriend, the Golden Boy. And though his deprogramming certainly took a little bit longer, watching his journey as a person and the fact that they were able to keep us still rooting for this couple throughout the entire film, even though it seemed like we may never get there with Golden Loin, that his progression was coming along a little bit too slow, but they kept us invested. And I loved his inner monologue on that helicopter. I thought it was one of the best moments of the entire film. I loved this blend of just like old high fantasy tropes mixed with a modern futuristic sci-fi even style world. I thought that was so cool. I do think maybe some of the humor just was a little bit meh, and it's a little bit predictable with the villain and where the story ultimately goes. But once we hit that final, like, emotional beat with Nimona in the third act, oh my gosh. I can overlook a predictable story when you develop these characters and care for them like this. Nimona, you're my little movie that could. I love you so much. And I'm begging the Academy to nominate Nimona for Best Animated Feature. Well, that only leaves one film. One animated film remains to rise above them all and be my favorite animated film of 2023. You probably already guessed it. You probably already knew what it was when you clicked on this video. And I'm sorry, I couldn't give you anything out of the box. I couldn't give you some shocker. But yes, my number one best animated film of 2023 is Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. What can I say? I found this film to be nearly perfect across the board. I got to see this 4 different times in movie theaters, and each and every time, not only did I pick up on Easter eggs or little animated moments I had never seen before, now whether they were a different version or not, it's still anybody's guess because we all heard those stories, but even in the narrative, the emotional cues, these small moments between characters, every time my experience with this film was enriched because the screenplay is layered and beautifully handled, giving us Gwen's story here being the prime focus, the full arc that we get in this movie being Gwen's story, I thought was an amazing touch for her character. It was so beautifully handled, and it wasn't done at the sacrifice to Miles's story, because Miles also has this wonderful journey of self-discovery. I once again love his relationship with his parents. The animation is yet again absolutely groundbreaking in what they were able to accomplish and push the envelope even further from the amazing animation that they gave us in Into the Spider-Verse. The new characters were all fantastic and voiced beautifully. Oscar Isaac gives us this really interesting, intriguing, and still somewhat understandable antagonist in Miguel O'Hara, although not a villain, certainly. He's definitely the antagonist of Miles' story right now. Of course, we have Daniel Kaluuya coming in as Spider-Punk. He was fantastic. The new worlds that we get to visit, the new universes are all wonderfully handled, and they take the time to give us so many smaller character moments and really develop these characters throughout. The action is once again amazing. The only negative is that it leaves us on this big cliffhanger. It's only a part 1, and I have to wait another year or 2 to get that third end of the story. But for me, it's still a complete film with a complete arc for one of our 2 main characters and a really intriguing arc for the other that works really well. I loved everything about Into the Spider-Verse. I thought it was beautiful, it was moving, it was awesome, it was funny. It's just the best. And that is why Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse is my favorite animated film of 2023. So that was my ranking for every single animated film I saw in 2023. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, go ahead, click that like button down below and subscribe to the channel so that you are always up to date on all of my latest videos, including each and every one of my year-end lists. Also, make sure to join in on the discussion. I want to hear your ranking for all of the animated films you saw in 2023, either in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up on Twitter. I love you all so much for your continued support. Mwah! Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.